Okay, there we go. Hold on, I've got to. Um, Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I am joined tonight by Eva Hamilton, fresh back from her trip to Costa Rica for a new movie. Eva has had starring roles in Ruin Me, Death Kiss, Revenge for Daddy, and The Swing of Things. Soon also to be seen in All of You Will Die, Z Dead, Sawed Off, which is a horror comedy, which you gotta love horror comedies that are sawed off, and the horror anthology series Black Goat. But currently, you're in pre-production on the new horror anthology Campfire. You just ramped up filming in Costa Rica, and I want to say you're almost off to star in a new series, Multilator 2. Am I correct?
Yes, that's happening actually in a couple weeks, so very soon.
So tell me, how was it going from Southern California to Costa Rica? And you were filming there for what, less than 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think, well, I was actually in Utah for a couple days before that filming. So once we got to Costa Rica, I think it was, I want to say like 12 days there. So it was pretty brief, but we got a lot in that time. Yeah.
Okay. And you just got back this past week, right?
I did, yes.
And you are about ready to jump back out onto work with, well, Multilator 2. It's been years. Why don't you tell everybody how long the first one was as opposed to now, and how you became involved in this?
Oh, yeah. So I think the original came out, I want to say 1983. It might be 1984. I'm feeling like it's 1983, and hopefully that's correct. But yeah, that was the original, and it was a really, really awesome cult classic slasher from Buddy Cooper, who's an awesome director. And it had, a big cult following in the 80s slasher world, of course. And so, Buddy came back and decided to make his sequel, which is kind of long awaited in the deep horror community. And yeah, so I got involved in that. Long story, but I ended up, I saw that they were casting. I reached out to Buddy, I believe, and just said, hey, I saw this. I love the original. I'm super interested if you guys are still casting. I didn't even know at the time, but so it kind of all just went from there. Yeah.
You are very young. So how old were you when that first original one came out?
I was not alive at that point.
I was gonna say, when did you see, and I hate to say this because everybody, I'm so sorry, but I am going to say my age. I was just going into high school at that age. So I remember it when it first came out.
Awesome. I love it.
But when did you see the original?
Well, I watched a lot of slashers as a teenager in high school, stuff like that. And I hadn't ever seen that. I got into a lot of the 80s horror much later. So I guess, I don't know. I had heard of it. I'd always heard of Multilator. I knew it was a thing. And I think the first time I saw it was maybe 5 years ago or something like that. And then of course, when this came about, I, immediately went back and rewatched it.
Let's jump into some of these questions everybody has asked. I want to start with Jamie's question. Jamie asked, what was your first scary movie you ever watched?
Oh, that I ever watched. Trying to think, ever. I think maybe The Shining. I think The Shining was probably the first one I ever watched entirely. And I don't think I was really supposed to. I definitely watched it with a friend, at her house, late at night when her parents were asleep. And it was mind blowing. I loved it. And that definitely got me into horror.
Jamie asks also, did anything ever give you nightmares?
No, not from horror. I feel like if I get nightmares, it's more real life related. I know that sounds crazy, the real life horror, but no, I mean, there was when I was younger and I'd watch them, there would definitely be that kind of eerie, laying awake in the dark, just aware that, there was kind of this scary, eerie feeling left over from watching something. But no, I don't think ever gave me Nightmares.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember as a kid watching, oh shoot, he was the guy from Starsky and Hutch, and Salem's Lot was the movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for some reason, as a kid, I was not allowed to watch it, but I kind of peeked in, and that gave me the heebie-jeebies and scared the living daylights out of me. I have no, because I watched it later on, and I was like, wow, why did this scare me so much as a child? But I guess it was just a thing that A, I was forbidden to watch it. B, I was told to go to bed. And then I snuck in and still tried watching it. So
yeah, I feel like that's part of it. Like, you're not supposed to see it. So there's that added element. Like, something must be really scary about this if I'm not allowed to even watch it.
Claire asks, what drew you into getting acting?
Oh, well, I grew up doing dance. I did ballet. My mom was a dancer. I kind of got into that world, I think a little bit through her. And I did a little bit of theater when I was a kid, and I really, really loved it. And I loved dance, but there was something about being on stage in an acting capacity that I always remember, like the first time I stepped out and on stage, and it was like something clicked. It just really felt right. And I felt really at home performing, and it was just, I was super drawn to that. So I went to a performing arts middle school and high school, and I did theater all there, and then graduated from college, did theater in college, and then got really into film. And that's kind of the journey, I guess. Yeah.
Is there one of the mediums you like to prefer to do more, whether it's stage, film, or television?
I mean, I love them all for different reasons. I love film. I think film has always probably been my first love, I guess. But I mean, I really love theater and stage for different reasons. There's definitely that element of that, that dynamic between you and the audience right there that's present, that is an incredible thing that, you don't have that with film in the moment. You don't experience that. But I love film. I love TV. Yeah, I guess I just like them all for different reasons, but film I think is probably what I'd say first.
Is your favorite medium? Okay. Juan asks, what do you find appealing about horror movies?
Everything. No, that's it's hard to like put my finger on what exactly it is, but I think there's something really kind of almost therapeutic and cathartic about being like watching this contained universe of very scary things happening when you're detached from it. And I don't know, it's always felt almost kind of comforting and peaceful to me. Like, I know it's scary and horrible, things are happening, but it always was just very enjoyable for me to watch. And all the different little subgenres within horror became just super fascinating to me. I think it's an awesome community, really cool people. There's a lot of artistic, merit that I see in it that I don't think always gets the credit it deserves. And I just always felt drawn to it.
Has some of the magic for you kind of disappeared now that you're actually you're not watching it, you're actually on the other side, and you're actually part of that, creating that horror? Do you feel that some of the shine's kind of gone off of it?
I don't feel like the shine has gone off of it, but it is different now that I've done so many horror movies. It's definitely a little different when I go watch one. There's elements where like I'm kind of looking at the technical aspects rather than the story as much as I probably used to, but it always has a shine. So that hasn't gone away.
Is it weird seeing that how horror movies now are made? Do you ever look back on an old movie you've watched and go, that's how they did that?
Yeah, I think definitely with effect stuff. Yeah. Especially with that, because, it looks so real and you're like, how could they possibly do that? And then I've worked with some incredible effects artists and I'm like, okay, all right, I see how you're doing it. That's impressive. Yeah.
On your shows or your movies, how many times have you personally been killed off?
Oh, hmm. Of what's out right now, I have a lot of stuff that's will be released probably in the next year or so. So I'm trying to like not think about those. But of what I have out now, I think I only die, and I'm saying quote unquote die in one. And there's a quote unquote because if you've seen that movie, without I don't want to give it away, but I died. Yeah.
Okay. Tammy would like to know, what is it like to be known as a scream queen?
I it's cool. It's always been cool to me. When I started out in this industry, I always, I wanted to do just good work. It was never like I only want to do horror or anything like that. But I love horror and I watched a lot of it. And I really, I think in a way, it almost like it kind of drew that to me because I was so into it myself. So yeah, I guess I'm kind of like losing track here of what I'm trying to say, but I guess it's I remember like the first time that I ever, heard myself, I think it referred to as a scream queen. And I think it was in like Us Weekly or something with about a really small part I played in something. And I just remember seeing that like with my name on paper and I was like, oh, like that's really cool. I was scream queen, like what cool. So yeah, I always thought it was great. I want to work in any genre that has good roles that I feel good about, but like I am so happy to be in the horror community, and it's cool. It's really awesome to be known as a scream queen, and the fans are so cool, and they're so, they really stick with you. So I think that's something that you don't necessarily experience in other genres as much. Like it's a really loyal community.
Yeah, I've understood that with horror, with fans who enjoy horror, they're almost like fans who enjoy sci-fi. They both have they have their favorites. But they're so passionate and they know so much about every little detail of whatever movie it is, how the script was made, to whatever the prosthetics were you were wearing at the time. So
Right.
it's kind of nice how everyone kind of it has its own little merits on each one. Now,
Yeah.
as far as you being a scream queen, you were voted Northern Frights Festival's final girl in 2018, as well as Best Supporting Actress from Cult Movies International Film Festival in 2021 for your role in Elsewhere. How does it feel to be voted on and be chosen as, the top of those little film festivals?
That was incredible. It's super, I was very flattered, of course, and it's really lovely to be recognized. And I remember, I was nominated a few times in the past for other films, and that felt like a huge compliment as well. But really, really winning is incredible. Yeah, feel super lucky.
What is it like to for everyone watching? What's it like to actually accept that award? Well, the 2021, I'm assuming you did not accept that in person, right?
Oh no. No.
What's it like accepting that award, knowing that you were chosen amongst other finalists, basically, and just sharing that with everybody? What's it like to have so many people recognize you for your work?
Oh, it's incredible. It's a total honor. I remember that the Northern Frights one was kind of like a voting system. So, it was like, I think there were three of us, and, we all asked our fans and friends and whatnot to vote for us. So I had no idea at the time who was going to win. And I didn't have that much stuff out. I think my film Ruin Me had come out at that time, and Death Kiss may have, but those were really the only two anybody knew me for. So I wasn't expecting much. And so it was incredibly flattering that I won and that I was even, chosen as a possibility.
How has we'll touch in, I know there's probably a question here I saw earlier about it, but since COVID has come out, the pandemic has kind of lessened somewhat. how did that impact all your work during the last year and a half to 2 years?
Well, it definitely made, I mean, it made a big difference. Things have really started to come back to normal. I feel like I was really lucky in that I kind of managed to work relatively consistently throughout the pandemic, which was, you know, a whole new way of working and a whole new world of working, because everything was different. It was like, you know, when do you have your mask on? When do you not? How many times do I get COVID tested a week? It was, you know, every set was a little bit different, and SAG rules and all of that. So that sort of became the new norm, I guess, in these last couple of years. And so now that we're getting a little bit more back to normal, it's like I'm having to readjust to what it's like to not have, you know, all of these specifications in place. But I do feel, you know, really lucky that I was able to keep working throughout.
Was there anything that you had that kind of canceled out that was already in the works, but because of COVID, they said, hey, you know what, we just don't want to feel like it's the right time to do this, and pull the plug? Or were you still able to continue with all the projects you were already earmarked for?
I basically I had a lot of things get pushed. So nothing was canceled, but I did have a lot pushed. And when those were pushed, I had some other projects kind of pop up that like were smaller, that, you know, it was people that wanting to make films with a really tiny cast and be really safe, just kind of as an independent thing. So I did do some of those. And then everything that got pushed has either now filmed or, you know, will be filming shortly. So nothing so far, knock on wood, has been canceled.
Okay. I know a lot of my friends that are in the industry that, you know, I mean, a lot of things, those 2 years kind of ended a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? So can you tell everybody that's kind of watching, what's it like being on set when you have to be tested? And at the start of it, it was mask, face mask, being tested previously, being tested day of, being tested, you know what I mean? It was a nonstop. How many, say in a week, how many times were you actually tested?
It depends on the project, but I mean, there was definitely a period when I remember one project and we were getting tested like 3 times a week, I want to say, at that point. And that was only because we were all really kind of sequestered together. So we weren't even exposed to other people and the world as much. If we had been, I think it would have been even more testing. So it's definitely been a lot of testing, a lot of masks, a lot of like, yeah, just lower face being gone.
No. For people watching, it's strange when you're on set, you're sitting in your chair, you have your mask, but then you have another face mask on top of that mask, and it's right. A surreal world that, you know what I mean?
Right. And then there's all the other masks, like the clear ones, that sometimes that's enough, but sometimes it's not. There's just a whole world of masks on set.
and the brown bag that they give you to put mask in as you jump in to do your scene, till you get to come back and put your mask back on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's weird. It's like, okay, now it's off, and now, okay, all right, now you got to put it back on, and then, you know, you can take it off when makeup does your face, but it's just, yeah, there were a lot of little intricacies to kind of juggle and figure out.
Oh, and I'm glad everything's kind of working back to our the way it used to be.
Finally, yeah, we're getting there.
Anika asks, do you feel horror is your niche in movies, or would you like to do other types of things? I know you've done other types of things, but is horror something that you would like to continue in the future?
Yeah, I would absolutely like to continue doing horror. I love the genre. I would always want to keep doing it. I would happily do other stuff also, but I would never, I think I'd be sad if I wasn't kind of known in the horror community and had a little bit of the Scream Queen thing going on. But yeah, no, I have, and recently especially, I have gotten some projects that are totally out of the horror vein entirely. Like the project I just shot was kind of a romantic comedy type thing, like the opposite antithesis of any horror. There was no blood. I was like, why am I not covered in blood?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about this. It's from what I've seen of it, it's almost like a romancing the stone type thing. But it is a romantic comedy, am I right? But it's still a an almost like an action adventure as well, right?
It is, yeah, it's very much both. It has, without giving away too much, it has elements from both like action adventure and then romance, and there is some comedy in it as well, but it's at its core, it's a very romantic, sweet love story, but there is definitely like some intense adventuring stuff happening as well. They're in the jungle, running around, rappelling, doing all types of craziness. So yeah.
Rappelling. Did ballet get you all geared up for the rappelling, or did you have to take a little class on that one?
I was terrified. I did it. I was as prepared as I could be, but I'm not great with heights, and it was a challenge, but I did it. So yeah.
So not giving anything away, but with this movie, did you do your own stunts in it?
I did.
Yay!
Yeah, I did all of my own stunts in it. Yes.
So now you get to add that to your resume. Nice.
Yeah, that's true. I know. It was a lot of running, which was fine, and then just a lot of height stuff. So that was really the challenge for me personally. But yeah, it was really fun.
Just not any blood.
What's that?
I said just not any blood for you.
Yes, I mean, it was sorely lacking in blood. There were mosquitoes like eating my flesh constantly, so that was blood in an element, but no real blood to speak of.
Darn, those poor makeup artists. They didn't get to put anything on you this time.
Right. Just had to do beauty makeup.
Asling, who watches generally, she is actually from Ireland. So she generally catches the afterwards. She never watches it live because she is from Ireland, and they're like, I want to say she's told me she's 10 hours ahead of us. But she asked, what is the scariest thing you have ever done on a film?
Well, good question. I kind of think that with this last film, the rappelling and another heights related experience involving a very high bridge were the scariest things that I think I've had to do, which may just be because I'm so bad with heights, but I think those are it.
Okay. Now with the rappelling, did you get a class on it ahead of time, or was it?
We had instruction ahead of time. It was done safely, but it's outdoors on a cliff and there's a waterfall involved. So it was, we had instruction, but there's definitely risk involved.
Okay.
It was all good, but yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see you rappelling down a cliff. Francisco from Spain asked, did you have a favorite horror movie growing up?
I did, yes. I think my all-time favorite has always been Suspiria, the original.
Well, I'm sorry, you broke up. What was it?
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, Suspiria, the original Suspiria.
Okay.
Has always been my favorite.
Now, did that scare you the first time you saw it?
It did. It scared me, but I think more than anything else, I was just really kind of blown away by like the beauty and the color and just the look of it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely scary. It's just like a beautiful film to me in so many different ways.
Now that you are older, have you met some of the people that were in those films that you watched as a child?
Yeah, I have met some. Started a production company with a friend of mine. We worked with Stacey Nelkin from Halloween 3, and I was always so into Halloween 3. So meeting her and working with her, I was like, oh my gosh, like, you're so, that was sort of a starstruck moment. But there's definitely been some, here and there. It's always kind of crazy when that happens. Yeah.
Is it weird kind of seeing your idols from when you were a kid, you're back in there and you're like, oh my goodness, I watched you.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's definitely a little weird. Like, you try to not be super awkward about it, but yeah, no, like there's people that I've met where it's like, wow, I never in a million years thought I would A, meet you, or B, be working and with you. It's very cool. It's a very cool experience. Yeah.
Now, have you ever got any tips from anybody that you watched and then worked with later on? Did they give you any tips on, oh, you really should do this, or
I guess more like life advice and just kind of becoming friends with these people and just kind of getting to know them and their perspective as artists and as just humans has been that more than anything else, rather than like specifically tips related to acting. I would say more that kind of stuff. But it is very cool to get to know people like that on a more intimate in a more intimate capacity, rather than just seeing them from afar as this star, and at the end of the day they're they're a regular person just like everybody else.
This just came across. Michael asked, what is happening in the Mooncats world?
In the Mooncats world, that is actually the production company that I was referring to. Our film, The Shed, is the one that I was talking about with Stacey Nelkin. It is currently it's being edited. We have some sound stuff going on, so we're working on it. It is slated for a release in October of 2022, so soon-ish.
October, right there, about that Halloween time, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's intentional. Yeah. I love Halloween. We love all that stuff. So yeah.
I was gonna say, I was just gonna come out on a limb here and say, I bet your favorite holiday is gonna be Halloween. I'm just saying.
It's a wild guess, but yes, you are correct.
As a young girl, what did you dress up with for Halloween? Were you all into the I'm going all scary all the time?
I was everything. Like I was just into dressing up, and my mom would, make me these like very cool, like hand sewn costumes. But no, I was everything from like a princess, like a fairy princess, to, I remember I was Medusa one year, and then I would be like a dog the next year. So I was really everything. Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking, Michael Myers coming around the corner.
No, I mean, now, yeah, definitely that's what I would be. But no, I was everything. I just got excited by being dressed up itself. Like it was kind of like, like creating a character. I got really into that.
And look at you now. Now you get to do that for a living, by the way, dressing up as characters.
True. And that is like the coolest thing ever. I'm always grateful for that.
Terrence had asked, what was it like to film out of the country now that everything has opened back up?
Oh no, my screen just froze. Can you say that last part again?
Yes. Excuse me. Terrence had asked, what was it like to film out of the country now that everything has opened back up?
Oh, good question. It was great. I mean, it was so fun to be able to travel again. And obviously there are still restrictions and masks and all that kind of stuff. But no, it was great. It felt really freeing to be able to travel again and shoot on location and, experience new places. I loved it. When
flying into Costa Rica, did you guys take a smaller plane, or did you fly into their main airport and then drive to a location? What was that traveling like going on in there?
Yeah, we drove on a regular flight. We drove on a flight. We flew on a regular flight. So we drove a ways from Utah. We flew about a 4-hour flight, had a layover, another 4-hour flight, and then where we did end up, we did have to drive, I want to say like 2 or so hours to the first location where we were staying. And then we did some traveling throughout as well to other places.
Okay. Were you guys, I guess roughing it, or did you guys have accommodations there? Was there, you know what I mean?
We had accommodations. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we went deep into the jungle, like all day and, for shots and whatnot, but no, we did have a hotel and all that.
Okay, so it wasn't like you guys camped out right where the location set was, for a couple of days. You guys actually came. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, and the beautiful part about all of that, especially in Costa Rica, is you can drive not very far at all, and all of that's right there. We were staying near like Arenal volcano, so we were sort of right in that area of everything. So there was some driving, but most of it was close enough that we could go home at night and sleep, and then go back to the jungle in the morning.
What was the weather like down there in Costa Rica?
It was very hot and very humid, more humid than anything else. And then there was a ton of rain, which I am like, I love storms so much. So I was super happy about that. It's not so great for filming days, but yeah, it was kind of cool. It was like there'd be cloud cover, but it would just be kind of humid. And then all of a sudden you'd have like a 10-minute just torrential downpour, and then it's gone. So it's kind of interesting weather, but I guess we lucked out. I think normally it's more rainy than it was when we were there.
When the rain hit, was it just basically, okay, guys, let's cover everything up and jump into vehicles real quick and then wait 10, 20 minutes and come back out?
There was definitely times when we did that. And there was a lot of like cloud movement. So, there'd be a scene that we were doing and all of a sudden it's a totally different lighting because of clouds moving. So it'd be sun, not sun. So that was kind of an issue. But yeah, there were definitely times when the rain was just suddenly there. So, you have to cover all the lights and all that. And we're just kind of waiting, hanging out waiting for it to be over and then to go finish the scene. Yeah.
What about wildlife that was there? Did you guys anything? Yeah. I'm seeing the eyes. I'm like, okay.
No, I love animals. That's like anytime I go anywhere, I feel like that's my main focus. I'm like, what, first of all, what's weird and like abandoned or creepy or horror-y here, but also what animals can I find? So yes, there were a lot of animals. I was very excited. We saw a ton of stuff, and we also took like a couple of the people there, and I did a nighttime tour in the jungle. So we kind of were able to see a lot of the more nocturnal animals. I really wanted to see a jaguar and I did not, but that's okay. I want to see a jaguar.
You don't need to see that.
I know. I mean, I wanted to see it safely from a safe distance, but no, we saw so much stuff. There were sloths and frogs and coatis, and I mean, I could go on. There were tons. I was very excited.
Well, you mentioned you always look for the oddities and the spooky stuff. Did you visit anything spooky while you were there?
No, we didn't have a lot of time off, so there was not a lot of spooky exploration. There was a lot of exploration in general, but no, I didn't come across anything terribly out there. Yeah.
Oh, look at your thinking though. Huh?
I was like, did I? Yeah, no.
Candy asks, is there a horror series or a movie series you would like to be a part of?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be a part of Halloween. That would be a dream. I feel like Scream would be a really cool series to be a part of. I really love Ty West, the director. I've always been a big fan of his. I would love to work on one of his films as well.
It's funny that you're mentioning the horror and the scary movie things, because Candy added on here, I am just saying I can see you as a Bond villainess.
That's so nice.
I was like, wow, okay.
I would be thrilled to be a Bond villainess. So thank you for thinking that. No, that would be amazing. I love playing villains. I super love playing bad guys. So yeah, that'd be fabulous.
Okay, so you like playing the bad guys. What are the perks playing the bad guys as opposed to playing the good guy on the show?
I mean, it's a chance to be awful. If that, like, it's like you don't get to be like that in real life. That makes me sound crazy. No, but it's a chance to like access all that kind of like crazy dark stuff, and it's really fun. And I'm a nice person in real life, but it's really fun to kind of to dive into those kind of people, those kind of characters. It's just unique. It's a cool thing.
So what you're saying is that deep down you are devilish and you like playing the bad guy.
I do. I mean, yeah, perhaps a little bit. No, I like playing all sorts of roles, but no, there's just something about playing bad guys that has always been very appealing and it's very fun.
Well, Sammy asked this, but I think we kind of already touched this. She did ask, how did the pandemic impact your projects or work? But you were one of the lucky ones that it really didn't impact too much.
Yeah.
So that's good.
In that regard, yeah.
Now, are you based here in Southern California? I know that you mentioned you guys flew out of Utah for the last show.
Yeah.
Have you been?
I live in LA.
Okay. Have you, during the pandemic, were you able to shoot locally, or were you actually one of the lucky ones that actually was able to go to Arizona, Nevada, perhaps, or anything like that?
I did shoot. I shot a couple films in Arizona, actually.
Okay.
But I did. Yeah, there was definitely still some stuff in LA that happened, but that was less than other locations during the worst of COVID. Yeah.
Right. I know when it hit basically that April, I want to say, everything kind of much in here in Los Angeles screeched to a complete halt for several months. And I know there's a few things going, but it was very, very small, very, very, none of the productions were going on for quite a while.
Yeah, I don't even know how long it was until I worked on something, here. Yeah, everything was Arizona. Yeah, elsewhere. Yeah. It definitely took some time.
But those areas are much more wide open. So, with here in LA, a soundstage can, they squeeze in 200 people into a small little area that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They're much more open. And those particular films I was doing were also, there was a lot of outdoor kind of activity going on. So we could be spread out and not all on top of each other in an enclosed space.
Gabriel, and we kind of touched on this a little bit before, asked, do you prefer playing a villainous goddess or a scream queen? Which do you prefer?
I love them both. I love them both for different reasons. It's fun being the person that, fights back and is going through all of this hell, this experience. But it's also fun, being the bad guy. Like, so I think I really like them both. Yeah.
Being a scream queen, have you ever lost your voice having to scream on a show or a film?
No, I haven't. I've had my voice very sore and tired, and I'm like talking like, very poorly. But no, I've never lost my voice. And surprisingly, I feel like for doing as much horror as I do and being a scream queen, I haven't had to scream all that many times.
Really?
Enough. Yeah. Like somebody asked me that recently and I was thinking about it. I've definitely had to scream, but not as much as you'd think. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that means that they're getting it all the same and the right take, right? They're getting it on the first take.
That's the positive way to look at it. Yeah. No, there's been a lot of things where I've had to, be in pain and be in distress. But like as far as actual screaming, I think there's been less of that than I would have expected.
Now, going back and watching some of the movies, was there anybody that you sort of emulated their style? You have Linda Blair, you've got Jamie Lee Curtis, you've got so many women that had different styles. Is there anyone that you kind of like watched and just said, that right there, that's the one I want to kind of emulate?
That's a good question. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I do. I definitely probably relate strongest to her style, her kind of like very naturalistic, cerebral kind of approach. But no, I don't think there was anybody in particular that I quote unquote emulated. I always just, I always love acting that's very naturalistic, that is about the character, kind of deep character work. So yeah, no, I just tried to look at, who these people, these characters really were, and just put the work into it rather than looking at it as a quote unquote horror project. I wanted to see who those people, really were, and not just like the trope of, this is this person, this is this person. But as far as like Scream Queens, Jamie Lee Curtis would definitely be kind of the one that I always loved.
I honestly, I don't know who I'd be more scared of in a dark alley, Jamie Lee Curtis or Michael Myers, because frankly, both would, kick my butt. So
That is definitely a fair assessment. Yeah, I agree.
Brian asks, is there any horror director that you really would like to work with?
Horror director, I mean, I would definitely love to work with Ty West. Adam Wingard, who's doing a bunch of other stuff now, but I love him. Yeah. I mean, but I think those are the main ones that come to mind.
Okay. Did I lose you again?
Women doing it. I feel like I come across a new exciting director like every day. I watch a lot of horror. So.
Juan had asked, what do you find appealing about horror movies?
Well, I mean, they're fun. I love watching them. I feel myself really drawn into the situations that are being presented more than I think with other films or other film genres. I don't really entirely know why that is, but that does seem to be the case for me. Yeah. I mean, I like feeling like I'm sort of a part of it, and thinking, what would I do in this situation, and what do people really do when they're presented with legit terrifying stuff and evil, and it's very much like a study in humanity and in how people work, and I'm always really interested in the mind, so I think that's a big part of it.
He did ask also, do you feel that they are becoming popular again? I don't know if horror movies stop being popular, but I think with everything kind of ebbs and flows. Westerns had been big for so long and they kind of went away, and then all of a sudden you'll have Tombstone and White Earp all came out at the same time, and then what I mean. But with horror movies, it's almost like anything else. It ebbs and flows where, what I mean. But I don't think they've ever lost their popularity. But
Yeah,
do you feel they've become maybe more mainstream now?
I do. Yeah, I do feel that. I mean, I think there's always, it's never like that they've lost the popularity, because there's always been fans, there's always been people. But yeah, I think it's definitely kind of had a resurgence as far as suddenly it's cool to like horror, which I don't know. It's almost like that was sort of like, I always kind of felt like a nerd, like a horror nerd, and that was the kind of a group of people that were into that. And now it's like it suddenly feels a little bit more mainstream and cool to be into horror. So I don't know if it's a resurgence as much as just popularity, but I mean, it's always good to have it out there more and have more people involved. But sometimes, I can be a little snobby about it, and it's like, I understand horror, you don't, but yeah, I try not to be like that.
Okay. No, it's you kind of hit the nail on the head there when you said that, I mean, you're kind of like a horror nerd. It's because it's much more acceptable now, and it's much more easily gotten to with Netflix and Shudder. Shudder is probably the perfect example. I remember being at a convention 4 years ago, and they were trying to get people to like their site, and hey, we'll give you a free, and I still have them, by the way, to this day, my Shudder socks.
I love it. That's so fun.
And they're like, hey, you can have a free pair of socks if you just sign up and give me your email address. And I did, and I was just like, oh my goodness, and it was not just the mainstream movies that we kind of grew up with, but so much stuff out there that people were trying to bring out. Do you feel that with the Shudder and Netflix and shoot, Apple TV, everything right now is they're bringing original content that is pushing the envelope for horror now. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. No, I mean, one thing I think that's really good about it is that I loved independent film. I grew up on independent films. Those were a lot of my really, strong loves. And I think the horror genre uniquely kind of presents an opportunity for more independent productions, or at least historically, than perhaps other genres. And now, with all of these streaming services and whatnot, like you were talking about, there's more room for new rising directors and people to sort of to demonstrate what they can do in horror, so I think that's really cool.
I think I've noticed over the past couple of years, it's gone away from more slasher type horror to more psychological horror.
Yeah.
And I think with the new streaming platforms, they're pushing that envelope really to its boundaries as far as, because some of that stuff it's the stuff that you can't see all the time that probably gives you the worst nightmares.
Yeah, right. Of course. Yeah, that's a good point.
So, is there any shows that are out there right now that you would love to be on?
It actually ended recently, but I loved Search Party, and I felt like it was super underrated. Not that many people knew about it. It wasn't really horror per se, but it had some horror elements. But that was a show I always, would have loved to be on. But I remember that when I moved to LA, True Blood was kind of underway, kind of wrapping up. But that was the show that I was like, I need to be on the show. I should be on the show. I have to get on the show. And it ended up being canceled relatively soon after. So I did not get a chance to do that. But anything like that, or, Buffy, or like, I've always wanted to be a part of like one of these kind of like dark, horror-y, psychological TV shows. Yeah. I can't think of anything else at the moment. I'm sure there's tons. And as soon as, I log off, I'll have a list.
I'm trying to remember the name. I'm going to get kicked for this one. What's the one on FX? It's
The Walking Dead?
No, not The Walking Dead. It's the horror one.
It's
American Horror Story.
Oh yeah. That would be a cool thing. Absolutely.
They continually rearrange how they do things, and it's so frightening.
Yeah. Oh, they do a great job, and really just really beautiful, like artistic work. They get great actors, and I love the fact that they do change it up every season. That would be a very cool one to be on. Yeah, now that you mentioned that.
See, now look at that. True Blood lost you, but American Horror Story, look out. Now, you did mention Buffy. Did you have a favorite episode of Buffy?
Yes, I think it's the silent one. Is that the one where they're chased by those like hovering? Yes.
Yes.
And that's 100% my favorite. I was like, is that the one or no? But yeah.
We just had this conversation last night, a friend and I did. And that season 4, that Hush was like, was brilliant writing as far as the way they acted it. But just Doug Jones and Camden Toy, their version of those two gentlemen scared the creepers out of kids.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I saw it like not even really as I wasn't even really a kid. And it was like, that is terrifying. And I like, if something can terrify me, I'm so excited about it. Like, that makes me so happy.
It was found out after the words that both Doug and Camden, their smiles were said to be so creepy enough they didn't have to wear the prosthetic piece in their mouth because they were already creepy the way they smiled, and then their, you know what I mean? Their little looks. And
the internet just did something weird. Okay, I think I got that. Can you tell me just the end of what you said? I'm sorry.
Oh, just the fact that the way they smiled naturally was creepy enough that they wanted just not even have prosthetics in their mouth, just because they were creepy enough like they were.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's so cool. I love that. You're creepy enough. You don't need
Yeah. And by the way, Doug is creepy enough the way he can contort himself anyway into all those things. So
yeah, no, that's true. I mean, that's a gift. Yeah.
Before we go, I know we're getting close to wrapping up. Tell everyone where they can follow you at on all your social media.
Yeah. On Instagram, I'm at _Eva Hamilton _ and Facebook is just Eva Hamilton. I never really use Twitter, so I wouldn't follow me there.
But you do have a Twitter.
I do. I think I have like one post. It exists. It's there. But yeah.
Now, for everybody watching, please come join us June 3rd, 4th, and 5th in Los Angeles. Eva is going to be our wonderful guest there. She'll be there signing, taking part in some panels. And so come talk to her and find out all things horror.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be there. Thank you.
Now, is there anything you'd like to share with us about anything new that I know you're going to be leaving back out on set here in another week? Anything new coming up besides Multilator 2?
I do have a few things. I mean, I have Campfire coming up. I'm super excited about that. Some other stuff down the line that's kind of the main one I think I can talk about right now, but I have a ton of stuff coming out this year, next year. I think I have like 11 films that I'm kind of waiting on to be released. So there is a lot to come.
11 coming out.
I believe that's the number I looked at most recently. It was either 10 or 11. I think it's 11 now with the new one. So there's a lot of horror, there's a lot of other stuff, but a lot of really cool horror stuff coming.
You have been busy, haven't you?
Been busy. Yes.
And it's not even slowing down for you.
No, luckily I'm so happy to keep working. Yeah.
So you fly back into town and now you're out. You're in another week, you're off going Multilator 2.
Yeah, so I went from a very sweet romantic movie to like mutilation. So it's a fun. Yeah.
Everybody, this is the life of Eva Hamilton. We are just all enjoying what she brings to the screen. So, Eva, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, please come and join us in June. And go follow Eva on all her platforms, please. Okay. Thank you, guys. Eva, just stay with me for one more minute after we say goodbye. Sure. Thank you, everybody.